And buddies, Ms. Longenecker here with another story to share. Today's book, Plymouth Rocks, The Stone Cold Truth, written by Jane Yolen, illustrated by Sam Streed. Rock speaks. You know that I'm old and rather well known. But everything told is not set in stone. Two kinds of history, not all of it true, not all of it false. It's now up to you. Research and study, discuss, and choose. Some call it fiction, some call it news. Stone has a long memory, but memory does not always speak true. So I will check the facts. If rock statements are misstatements, alternative facts, fabulations, or just plain lies, my red pen will let you know. Rock and roll. I was not born where I was found. In fact, I wandered all around. Erratic, I am sometimes called, a glacial friend just let me fall. Left me there and moved away. I haven't seen it since that day. I really hope that it's okay. An erratic rock is one that has been moved by a glacier. Plymouth Rock is a granodiorite, a rock similar to granite. More than 600 million years ago, rock was part of a larger granodiorite that was carried away by a glacier. When that glacier melted, rock dropped off and got left behind. More of that larger granodiorite that rock came from has been found 40 miles away from Plymouth. That's really close in glacial terms, not very far in human terms either. Now, rock never moved this fast. Most glaciers travel less than half a mile per year. Rock bottom. A few years later, eons they say, woolly mammoths came my way, rubbed their tails on my backside. My, those creatures sure were wide. Rock almost gets a pass on this one. Woolly mammoths did come across the Bering Strait to North America. Though most of their bones have been found in the Dakotas, a few remains of mammoths have been found closer to the east coast. A couple of mammoth teeth have actually been unearthed in Cape Cod. So maybe one or two wandered that far. Or maybe their fossilized bones got dropped by some kind of erratic rock. We just don't know yet. Rock band. For a long time, just creature comforts, deer and elk galore, an occasional snake for shiver's sake, though after a while it too proved a bore. A stone's life has but few adventures, a rock, a roll, a little more. My goodness, rocks left a lot out. In addition to the creatures rock mentions, there were also wandering raccoons, wolves, turkeys, rabbits, porcupines, shorebirds, and the occasional bear looking for a mate. Rock solid. Native people fished nearby me. Their children sometimes tried to climb me. Their fires kept me warm and toasty, cooking dinners that were roasty. But alas, I do not eat, and so I never tasted meat. I am a rocketarian. Rock is correct on this one. The indigenous people of the eastern woodlands have inhabited the area for more than 12 1,000 years, thousands of years before the Pilgrims arrived. Back then, many tribes, including the Wampanoag, Patuxet, Mohegan, Pequot, Narragansett, Nauset, and others lived in the area. Some of them live there to this day. Rocking the boat. New men and women passing by on occasion caught my eye. Their color, clothes, and tongue seemed strange. Even a rock can note that change. Different people, same old ground. An old world lost, a new world found. Well, rock is missing a lot of detail here. Settlers didn't just find a new world, they colonized it. After taking over the southern part of the East Coast, many English, French, and Spanish settlers traveled north. The settlers considered the Americas to be a clean slate, a new world in which they could create a new future for themselves. The newcomers thought of Europe as the old world and brought over aspects of their cultures, histories, and religions. The native people, however, had lived in the Americas for thousands of years and did not consider their world new. The settlers also brought violence and disease, which dramatically reduced the Native American population. Much of this started well before the Mayflower ever set sail. Stepping stone. A boat sailed in. The Pilgrims landed. That's how I, Rock, came to be branded. The disembarkers stepped on me, first footfalls toward their liberty. I always keep this thought in mind. What a big step for humankind. Oh dear, Rock has really gone overboard. Open the fold out for the true story. On November 21st, 1620, the Mayflower and its 102 passengers anchored at the tip of what we now call Cape Cod. Ship's master, Christopher Jones, took a small group of the colony leaders to explore the coast. They eventually found a better harbor, named Plymouth, and returned to the Mayflower. The ship sailed to Plymouth, where the passengers began their new lives. The Plymouth landing may have been a big step for the settlers, but it sure wasn't a positive step for the indigenous people who already lived there. No large rock or stepping stone is mentioned in any of the travelers' journals or logs. Rock perhaps should not have used the word pilgrims to describe the travelers. Some of the immigrants called themselves first comers. Others used names like saints or strangers. Only much later did the name pilgrims stick. Rock, salt, and pepper. Who welcomed them? Well, I was the first. Then came the tribes with a great burst of friendship, food, community. They gave these gifts to the ones from the sea. But everything began with me. Hold on a minute. To be clear, Rock did not welcome any pilgrims. That legend was invented 121 years after the landing, when a church elder named Thomas Bounce shared a story he allegedly heard as a child. No one knows for sure why Bounce spoke about a humble chunk of granite being stepped upon. Perhaps the story stuck because it offered a symbol of a new nation. The story of the Pilgrims' first Thanksgiving in the with the Wampanoag people is a legend too. Native people did greet the colonists and later shared food with them, but that is not the whole story. More and more colonists soon arrived and took native land to build their homes. They treated the native people brutally and dishonestly. The common image of native people happily celebrating Thanksgiving with colonists is now considered offensive by many. On the rocks. When the colonists thought of breaking from their motherland, I was taken up quite roughly by a local band. Then I was severed, cut right in two. Some called it a sign of what the colonists would do. In 1744, when the colonists were thinking of cutting ties with England, a small group decided to move rock to the town's meeting house. They lifted up the heavy stone and put it on a wagon pulled by oxen. At some point, the rock hit the ground and broke in two. Many Massachusetts colonists took this as a sign that there would be a break with England. They were right, but it had nothing to do with rock's accidental split. Still, it made for a good story. Rock's top half went to the town square. The bottom half remained on the shore. Rock on. Another century, another move. I don't know what they meant to prove. My name secure, I broke into, dropped by a careless, traitorous crew. Poor Rock has the right facts, but the wrong reasons. Not sure when this happened. No treason was involved at all. On July 4th, 1834, Rock was moved again, this time to the front lawn of the newly built Pilgrim Hall Museum. Either during this move or later on, the rock broke again. Regardless of when it happened, the movers should have been more careful. Leave no stone unturned. You'd think a national monument would live an afterlife content. Surrounded by a strong defense, I waited for life to truly commence. But with hammer, chisel, pick, and peck, my life became a rocky wreck. Rock is right about souvenir hunters. Because of the falls and the chips off the old block, Rock became awfully stunted. Many of the pieces can still be seen in places like Plymouth Church in Brooklyn and the Smithsonian. Today, Rock is 1/3 to 1/2 of its original weight and measures approximately 4.5 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 2 feet tall. Rock's pieces are revered for the legend rather than for the true history of the Mayflower and Plymouth Rock. But sometimes a made-up story is so strong it becomes more memorable than the truth. Set in stone. Our country wrought in stone and fire, itself a monument to admire, suddenly tore itself in two. But I, Rock, knew what to do. I sent a signal of reunification, and so we rebuilt our war-torn nation. The Pilgrims and those who came after them built houses and monuments of stone, securing territory with guns and cannon fire. When the nation was being torn apart in the 1860s by a terrible civil war, it seemed as though the country would have to reinvent itself. Rock was a symbol of freedom, and some mentioned it when discussing slavery in the Civil War. But did Rock have anything directly to do with the war? or unification afterwards? No. But this much is true. Rock remained an important historical symbol. In 1880, while the country was still picking up its pieces, Rock's top was reunited with its base. The Pilgrim's arrival date, 1620, was carved onto Rock's surface. Rock steady. Another big anniversary, another big change, another housing to rearrange. Now placed in a portico, my life once more is put on show. I'm too old for all this moving. What did they think that they're improving? In Rock's long life, its large chunks had been moved 5 times in 1774, in 1834, 1880, 1920 into a temporary storage house, and 1921 into its new showcase, a neoclassical temple. Regardless, at the time of the 300th anniversary of the Mayflower's arrival, Rock was still a wonder of the nation. Many believe today that the legendary footfall on the stone really happened. And down here in the corner, Rock complains too much. Rock Star 400th Anniversary 2020. Here's a party for all to share, with boom and blast and rockets' red glare, loud huzzas for 400 years, clapping and stomping amid loud cheers. For me, of course, there's something more. It's for the country that I adore. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than me. It's really about nation and liberty, the right to be and the right to stay free, and also the right to disagree. Story can change the world, you see. Take it from Plymouth Rock. That's me. I've gone from glacier granite shocks to a place where Plymouth really rocks. Rock's real story is a lesson for all of us, but it's not about being the stepping stone to the United States. It's this. Over time, we all change and adapt. We diminish and we grow. We make up stories and imagine glories. We are pieces of the same whole. We're still working toward making sure everyone in the U.S. has the liberty to do those things. Our task as citizens of the world is to bring all nations together, to become real partners, real compatriots, real friends. Story binds us together. And if a rock can understand that, perhaps we can, too. I've talked about back matter in the past, and in this book, Jane provides some back matter for us. So if you want to do some fact checking of your own, you are welcome to look up any of these resources that she lists in the back of the book. Thank you for listening.